is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And we're taking a look at Dreamcatcher's Fly High dance video. Now, I've been looking forward to this song the most out of the whole thing because this is the one that was my favorite female K-pop song on the Pump It Up discography. And I had no idea Dreamcatcher did it. It's my favorite like step chart that is a level 10. Like, I even know the specific chart. I'm like, this is the bee's knees. I love it. So I'm actually really excited to see the dance to it. I do know the music video, I think, is like in front of this big cathedral or building that's all red and they have these cool outfits on, all that. We're gonna watch the music videos after we watch all the dance practices, of course, but we gotta take a look at the content. Interesting thing about this too is they do not have a dance practice to this, they only have a dance video or live. So we're gonna look at the dance video. And then of course too, I've already said as well that I would love to look at some of their live versions because I know I'll probably get done with Dreamcatcher before the end of the month, so that gives us time to look at more things. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check it out. This is a really cool color grade. Their outfits are actually really cute. I like the shorts ones especially. Do I think it's a little too foggy? Possibly. That could just be a preference thing. Let's go. Yes! I love the drums of this part. Oh, it's not there yet. Ah! I played a shortened version. There's this whole percussion section of this track. This part. No, not this part. Ah! They just rickrolled me because I don't dance to the full track. This is my first time hearing the full thing. It's near the end, I bet you. I'm gonna say this right now. How they're doing their choreography, how they carry themselves in their choreography, it's perfect for a concept like this. Yes! That part right here. Fun! Yes, ladies! Nice. I like her tone a lot. Ah. Wow. Yo, okay, two things. I'm a little teary-eyed right now because this is the perfect perfect sub-concept within the concept they have that is perfect for their movement quality at this point in time. I 1000% believe that, because the track is more gregarious and not really on neurotic in tone, so the type of power that is exuded or needed for this type of track is different than their previous ones. I freaking love this. It was so wonderful. Probably the best one, and will probably be one of the best ones out of their entire thing. Not because I'm familiar with the song, but I think it's because how they move and their overall movement quality looks the most tasteful in this concept. It's not really lacking pretty much in anything. Very, very, very impressed with this. And I think I just got a little teary-eyed just for the sheer fact. I think, hold on. I mean, of course, I just need to check something real quick. Yeah, I think they shot this mess in a one take. I think that's what happened. We just gotta double check though. Yeah. They shot this in a one take. Yes, they did. Those make me so, they're just so impressive, guys. Like, it's because I just recently, at the time of recording this, I definitely a first-hand experience being on the receiving end or filming a one take. It is a different type of stress entirely because you have to make sure you're in the right place with the right features. But here, it's like for them, you can tell in their dance practices, they are very proficient at being consistent in their synchronicity. And this worked to their advantage here because you got to see a breathtaking example of a one take. This was wonderful. Wonderful. There's only like one or two spacing things that I would have refined, but also it's a one take. So I typically tend to be more gracious in those, especially when they dance live too, because there's other factors like their outfit, their costuming. They're not wearing something, like they're wearing something more in unison. So some of them, they may feel more comfortable, others may not. So it factors in a lot of times in how you execute movement. But here, it's just wonderful. It really is. The energy of this having the levels of the upper and the lower. Love that. And then having them go in. Beautiful to branch out to the sides, having them bleed their hands down into the Z-sit, sliding it in, eye contact maintained. I love the bending of the knees. Do notice that some of them are choosing to have their weight more in that back foot. Some are keeping it in the front. I'm assuming that this is probably what they wanted to go with. This is my note for my dancer here is you notice that her knee is a little bit going towards the inside. We would always want to strive to avoid doing that because putting pressure on your joint in that way for long term, it's not going to be very helpful and it's not going to feel very good and it can turn chronic if you're not mindful of that. So we always give the recommendation, the knee follows the track of the foot, so she actually needed to be about right here. You notice it's just a little different. So that's just my general note, regardless if you're pigeon-toed or not, that's just something to keep in mind. I love how they rolled, they sifted out. Love the energy where they're bleeding the hands, they come up, the bleed through and the threads are really nice and they switch. Does it feel like she went a little early? Hold on. She went a little early. So I think she just had to commit to it that it is hard to catch it. So it makes sense. Totally fine. But notice everybody else refined what they needed to. I love it. Boom, doon, 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 doon. And then with the hand, with just the bleed over. I love that. Fly high. Energy's really nice. Even with the performance, I have a feeling that their dance practices are going to simulate very well over to live performances. I do notice that with ATs, especially when you have modifications of your feature where they're not using their torso as much as everybody else, but they're doing unison choreo. That's what my gut tells me. They practice singing or they're practicing making those concessions for the overall success of how they perform it live. This is really nice. They go down, they kind of hop over, they turn. This was my one note for spacing. I think this is the only time I really noticed it, is notice that there's significantly more space on this side than on this side. She can't really control that as much because they don't have a mirror, and also it's a lot of it is based on how they set it up to begin with. So that's just in general, just fixing that. She's still a little bit off here. I love that ding, 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 ding. Love that. Notice some of the range on this is just slightly off. I would say right here, she's not really on the same page as what's happening. These are more in the ballpark, but this one's just a pretty off, but that's okay. That's life. Yeah, and the reason why she's off, it did affect the range and how they did the build-ups into those overheads there. So that's my overall note. I like this. Dun, dun, da, 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 da. Having your feature. I love that bleed through over. I love how some of them made that choice to touch the hair. Some of them didn't. I love that choice. That was cute. Yeah. Da, da, da. Personally, I don't know if they hit this in that way. I gotta see with the motion of the camera. Ah, so they like really pulled it in. As long as everybody commits to it, I think it's totally fine. Yeah. Da, 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 and slide through. Really like that. It does feel... one of my dancers, she isn't going quite as low as everybody else. I was assuming it's because she's a feature. She may be our next one. She is. So what she had to do, she had to make modifications to her movement, or she had to kind of subdue it a little bit, and to ensure that she's not going so far out of the formation so she can transition very nice. So I think that was her troubleshooting in the moment, but my overall note would be just to make sure you guys have more effective or appropriate formations to where she can still go full out just like everybody else. So it's a surprise when she joins it, I think would be a nice way to feature her. Yeah, I love this there. Just the build of the energy is super nice. That da-na-na, really enjoying this. That turn, I love it whenever our feature just causes a reaction from the other members. It's just fun every time I see it in some way, whether it's like one of them touches and there's a reaction, or they turn and everybody turns except for your feature. It's just tasteful and it works every single time you do it. Regardless if it's a guy group, girl group, mixed group, whatever, it's always nice every time you see it. Love how they bleed it in. Very nice how they drop and they all come in. Notice the range, just little baby differences. As you could tell, some people who are using their arms more than their back. You know, it's just little thing. That's why it's always good to clarify where your energy is coming from. I literally had to do that today with one of my groups. I had to say, okay, with this arm, how you guys are executing it, some of you guys look like you're hitting it, but the range is off. Like we had to fix a lot of range stuff, just like what I know in these types of groups. I have it with my own kids. I only work with them about 30 minutes a week on every routine that they compete with. So it is very different than the K-pop world where this is their profession. These kids, this is a luxury activity. Do you know what I mean? Very different in headspace, very different in mentality, and different in time commitment. So we had to cover that. I'm like, make sure you're using your back or use your tricep whenever you do this motion, because that's going to provide XYZ in your dynamics. And it helps whenever you think about it that way, but it's just a lot to remember. But that's just in general note that I notice here. I love that switching through, shooting the arm up, bringing it through. I love the fact that everyone's hair is down. I like that too. But notice that we're building the energy, but how they're hitting it with their hair, and a lot of how the type of posture that they're carrying here is really, really nice with this. Just like what I've already said before, it matches because it's it's very open, and it doesn't have techniques that normally help justify neurotic timbres are not as required here, or they have to be enhanced in a different way on a track like that. But here, it does have a very like finale kind of connotation to it. You would put this type of track at the end, ending credits where the bad guys have lost. They're like da 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 da, or it feels like the superheroes are officially getting into gear, but it's like an all-female superhero gang, and they're like all it's like Sailor Moon, you know, like that kind of, when they all transform, it gives off that energy. I love it. I mean, it could placate over to just the overall vibes that they're giving. I think this is a perfect concept for them at this point in time. I know that, I mean, I love their other ones. Do not get me wrong. I love the fact that they're doing it, but this sits so well on them. So freaking well on them. I love that energy there. Bah, da, da. It's fierce, and it carries, and it justifies. And I just love that energy they do there. Yeah, right here. Try da, da. It's just, I love that. Yeah. Da, 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 da. My overall note with their overheads, they need more power usage of their back in order to make that happen. That right there, they all turn. She bleeds it up. Really great choice. Yeah, da, da, da. Love the bleeding from the pinkies to the fingers. And sometimes you see people go this way. I always love it when it goes from outside to inside. It helps you finish in the middle versus going inside to outside. You're expecting some openness to happen after that. Yeah, do I feel like there's some repeats of some of these movements? Possibly, because we've already kind of seen some of these, like this bleed over, this dip down. We've seen those kinds of environments or just in general postures already in the track, but they are doing a good job of making it different, either in formation and level or in dynamic. So no qualms there quite yet. Yep, I love how this thing right here does remind me of their time as Minx with Love Shake. But I love that moment right there, sliding through, da-da-da. It just feels so nice. Da-da! I love that right here with the little da-da. Really great on the words. Yeah, ding, ding, dee, dee, dee. And honestly, these hands really do help with a lot of the overhead complementary movement. I think this is really cool. I'm also really glad I saw their dance practice where they were doing whacking, so I understand where they are to start and where they are here. I do like the integration in the choreography. Yeah, do, do, do. They get lower, more grounded, build it up, just like with the track. I love it. They go here. Yep, ding, ding, boom. Love this here. Turning it in. Now we have seen, now it's my third time I've seen the feature be still and they turn. I did say I love it every single time. I do. Now, do I love seeing the same way of turning more than once? No. I would prefer at least like maybe, I mean, they're not technically turning the exact same way, but we are seeing that dynamic more often. I think it's our third time already in a minute 29. It's a 3:33 track, so that would just be my note. More creative ways, maybe rippling the turn, or every other do the turn, or just the feature turns, not sure. Something a little different than what we've already seen. The unison in our feature, the only one not. So, yeah. Flying high. And I'll tell you right now, there's a chance that this routine may be a little tricky for people to do just from the sheer fact there is a lot of overlap in some of the movements. So if you were doing this entire routine, you may get pretty confused on like, oh my gosh, is it a swipe? Is it a swipe? Is it a shampoo? Is it a reverse? Is it a ding? Is it a thing? Like there's a lot of overlap, and that's kind of the beauty of simplicity, is that it feels very what is it? Feels more, there's a familiarity behind it, and it feels practical. And you like having that, especially if you want people to do your choreo. And I don't know if that was during this era where they wanted people to do the choreo, but on the opposite hand, it can be very deceptive in just there's a lot of movements that are not repeating, but they're kind of like changing the font of the movement. It's kind of how I like to word it, and it can make it very tricky to remember what's happening when. So I wonder if that was a thing for them. I love where they dropped it down, having your next feature. Cute. And I love this right there. Those pull-ins were nice. Then we have a new one right there. We saw that. That's like a nice little Easter egg from their first one. Yep, and I love that with the swing through. And the accents, they even go so far as to have a moment here. They don't just do the hand and then let it go. They have a moment shared with the energy and connection before they move on. I love that. Bringing it through. I love this here with the line, so it creates a really nice moment, and they frame the feature well. Even though we have some people also facing front, they're panning it around and committing to a lot of this linear energy, and I really like seeing it. Dropping it down, boom, notice our feature's the only one that's staying front. Sliding it through, love this, boom, that was a really nice moment. It does require a certain level of flexibility here to be able to carry your lung capacity while also be able to showcase that angle. That was cool. I love this, boom, bring it back in, shooting the arm up, back down, dun, dun, more abrupt before the transition, love it. This right here, doo-doo-doo. It's all a little bit different there. She has this intense moment just like she did earlier, just a little bit different. She still controls them, but in a different way. Really nice. New feature. This right here. Do, do, do. She could have done a better job of actually strobing it, but I could see it well enough. Nothing crazy there. Yeah, back to the same course. We still have the same type of transitions and turns. I think because we have it in the course, that turn with the feature being featured, maybe not have had it in the first verse, I think would have really helped that be a better moment than it ended up becoming. I think that's just an in general note. It still looks fine, and I still like it. Yeah. Back in, right into same choreo, great spacing. I mean, it does appear that this side's a little bit more spaced out than on this side. Could be because of the room space. That always happens. The reason why you can tell is because there's more overlap between the feet here than here. There's more separation. So that's how you're able to tell those things. My gut tells me, I mean, I really like the space, so everybody gets their own lane, but I do like the uniformity potential of having these four here. And I also would give another note just in general for what they're wearing. I love what they're wearing, but if everybody was wearing the same thing, it would be really nice. And if everybody was wearing something different, it would also be nice. But part of me also wishes that we had a sense of, you know, whoever's in this, it's very mindful, like I would want somebody in the shorts here and somebody in the shorts here, just so it's even symmetrical in the outfit representation. It's subtle, that's more of a preference, it's not going to kill it, but if they were in different colors, it would definitely be a bigger issue. But here, because it's the same color palette, just different fits, and they are the same length, it's not nearly as much of an issue. Yeah, just right there, bringing it back in and causing the camera to pan out. This right here, for me, I feel like we are just kind of placing it instead of having the like the actual rotation in play for the percussion represented. But I love having the Also notice with one of them, I'm actually going to go back so we can see if we can see it. Let me see. It's my girl right here. Let me see. I knew I was going to get it. She's bending her head a little bit forward. Right there. That right here. That's something you want to avoid. You want to make sure that you can do whatever kind of overheads you want to express without having to create room for it. That's mostly just getting used to it, and sometimes you don't realize you do it until somebody tells you. So that would just be my note for her, is whenever you do any type of progressions or overheads within whacking, that would be something to be mindful of. Keep that chin nice and tall and confident. I love this boom right here, right into the overheads. Notice some of them are not doing the full range. My dancer right here is really not, she's kind of hanging out over here versus actually committing and striking. You want to strike in that back every time you do it. So that's just my overall note. Could be a shoulder thing or just a refinement thing for her. I love this, and dropping it down. This was really fun where she pulls up and over. For me, I always feel like it would be really effective whenever your feature does something more centered or central in movement, even though it's the same, especially when you have a mirrored out frame, because for me, it can make it feel imbalanced or more top heavy on one side. But that's mostly, I mean, it's not going to kill the routine by any means. It is just going to make it feel a little not as full on a particular side for any given moment. So if she was doing this and she did it more towards the front, it would feel a little bit more symmetrical, even though we're not seeing the full picture. That's just an in general note. Oh, here we go. Now dropping it down. I love the pulls ins, and then we have somebody else have their moment. Spacing's just a little bit off here. You can tell because there's really not a gap here, but there is a gap here. I don't know what the preference would be. Both could work, but they just needed to pick which one would work. Yeah. When you operate on opposites, like you have people dancing as opposites, it is really hard to clean the formations in comparison to everybody facing the same side. That's just natural, but it does make it more impressive. I love, and there's the turns once again, but it's slower. They slowed it down to speed change. I love how she hits it, and then they all hit it in response. This part does feel familiar. I have a feeling that, like, oh, the reason why I recognize this choreo is because during the step chart, you're able to hold the note, and hold the note. And so I'm actually able to see what's happening on the screen because there's nothing happening besides him holding one arrow. Goodness, it's really funny that I can remember that. But yeah, I remember this in particular, just with these kind of bleed overs. It's really nice to see. I love that. They even cut to different scenes with different outfits too, I think, right? Now let's talk about this level representation. I really love it. I do feel 1, 2, 3, 4, because we have all 7. I think these two could be a little bit closer together, honestly, if they were in the gap. So if she was in the gap right here and she was in the gap right here, it would feel so freaking full. It would. But also, on the other hand, I do like how close these 3 are, and I like how close these 3 are, and it allows a really easy access for our feature. So honestly, both are totally fine. I really like the representation of levels. I do think we could have gone a little bit lower from these two. But also that would mean she would need to go lower, and that girl's going pretty low. So maybe even having her just drop a little bit more. Could be a height thing. We may just chalk it up to that. But this is really, really nice to see. And they go da-da-da-da, and then they look front. Really nice. Time to build it up and break it down. So I do know we have like this moment where somebody's supposed to sing. She's not doing anything. I'm assuming she is a vocalist for this particular part. Bringing it around. Do-do-do. I really love the slowness of that. Really nice. Yeah, doom, with the turn, really fun to see. That's different choreo, I think, right? Pull, pull. So notice that whenever you have that bum, bum, we're being very mindful of what's happening in the layers of the track, and they're hitting it bum, 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 as they're building up the energy to finish it out. Really nice to see in the different choreo, bleeding it through, having from our front feature, then going from front to back. Really fun to see. Baby spacing thing right here, but honestly, it's even on both sides, so it's not quite as big of a deal. The only discrepancy is my feature, so she needs to scoot over just a smidge. So very minor spacing details, and you got a perfect, I mean, a freaking close routine. And I think the music just tapped out, but I know we're nearing the tail end. I love this they go and they turn, and then they go and they finish, voodoo. And we're just technically... Okay, so you have a choice. You can either go in the middle, which is what she chose to do, and you have this space represented, but there's a little gap, or you can choose to go directly behind somebody. It means that you're a little bit closer to this feature. My gut tells me I think it would have looked nicer if my dancer right here would have moved over ever so slightly to this side, and it would have been symmetrical near that end. And I do know this is probably a symbol of some kind. Please let me know what this means. Probably in basis to their maybe Dreamcatcher, like this. I wonder if that's their symbol. But I really like that choice. It's super fun. And it goes hard. I love that it goes here and then they bleed it up. Gorgeous choice. And then they go and they have her down and she reaches up to the sky. That was a really interesting choice. And then we have one person come up. Then she goes, she grabs, they drop, they come up, and they finish. Gorgeous. For a freaking one take, this was astronomically impressive. This was really, really nice. Because dance practices in and of themselves are great. This was awesome. I loved this. They get a round of applause for me. Let's go, girls. That was awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more Dreamcatcher, I have so much of it on Patreon. By the time this gets released to YouTube, I'll probably would have reacted to all of it at this point, which is really cool because I am already thoroughly enjoying just the different eras that I'm experiencing with Dreamcatchers, from Minx to their dance practices to their debut era as Dreamcatcher. And I think it's really fun. I mean, for every marathon I've done, I feel like I've heard maybe one or two songs of these groups, but I've never seen really the choreo. And it's really fun that we got to tackle this one. And I'm so glad they were the ones who sang it because I really like the track just in general. I think, yeah, for sure. And yeah, so if you are somebody that wants to be a part of the marathons that I do with K-pop groups, as I make them and as I post them, Patreon is the way to go. If you also want to have a say in what I react to, Patreon is where all the voting takes place. I put a lot of polls out, probably every week, and I post pretty much every day. If it's not a video, it's gonna be a poll. So I want you to know you're always gonna have people to talk to there, and you're always gonna have access to me in the YouTube comments as well as on Patreon. But on Patreon, you get my response faster. That's just a little side note. But this has been super incredible so far, and I'm excited to keep going, keep trekking along, and keep vibing out with everybody. Once again, I am Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.